back to Miraculous Mamas. I have Oakley Peterson here with me today to share her story about her family and her son Wells. And just thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
First of all, I love your name, Oakley. I was talking to my husband the other day. I was like, I love the name Oakley.
I think it's funny. I hated it growing up because I was named after my great grandpa, and now I love it because no one else my age has it.
That's very true. I don't think I've ever really heard it. So
yeah, it's different.
Yeah,
different's good. We like different around here.
Yes, but thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast and share the journey of your family. And you have an amazing blog.
Oh, you're so sweet.
That you started.
I feel like my blog's terrible. I'm good at Instagram. I'm getting better at blogging. I have some blog posts in the works, but I'm not as on top of it as a blogger as I'd like to be. But I can at least throw something on Instagram about every day.
Yeah. And you're starting a YouTube channel.
Yes. Well, we've got a lot of things in the works. It's just executing them. We're getting there. We're figuring it all out.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to kind of hand the microphone to you and let you just kind of share a little bit about your story.
Okay. So we originally had no intent of, having this kind of Instagram influencer family, this Instagram family that we've kind of evolved into. It all started when we decided to have our second son, Wells. Our second child, our first son, our daughter Scarlett was a year, and we decided to get pregnant again. I really wanted to have my first two close in age, like my sister and I were. And so we got pregnant with Wells, found out it was a boy. We were over the moon. Scott and I both have all sisters, so it was so exciting to be able to get to do the boy thing. And then we got a surprise at his birth with the diagnosis of Down syndrome. They took him out. It was a pretty rough, quick delivery. And when they took him out, I thought he's a little shorter than Scarlett was. He's a little, kind of had some cute little stubby hands and just looked and felt a little bit different. But I thought, this is a boy. This is my first time and with a boy. And we just got to snuggle and love on him for a couple short minutes when the nurses said, did you do that testing for Down syndrome? And I was so offended. I thought, I cannot believe they're telling me my child looks like he has Down syndrome. Now I think it's the greatest compliment. But back then I was just like, what? They're interrupting us. This is precious time. Anyways, they said, we just want to take him to the neonatologist and have him looked at. So Scott ran with, I said, I was still, getting all cleaned up. And so Scott went with them. And I thought, this is so silly, medical professionals, they're just scaring us for nothing. And as soon as I saw Scott down the hall, it was so clear that this was indeed what they were with, they were pretty sure. And Scott had tears in his eyes and said, honey, they're 95% sure. And I just, crumbled. We both did. For about 24 hours, we both were totally in shock. And it was just like every possible emotion you can feel. Mostly difficult emotions were felt in those first 24 hours. Yeah. After 24 hours, I feel like Scott was pretty okay. He was like, all right, we got this. It took me quite a bit more time. And I feel like that's usually the case with these birth diagnoses is one parent seems to be ready more quicker than the other. And for us, that was Scott. He was ready and up for the challenge. But anyways, that was kind of a long birth story. But after that, I think within the first year, actually in the hospital, I just felt like, even though I was still going through those difficult emotions while we were in the NICU, I felt such a special, unique connection to Wells, and something just was so magical about him right away. Even as I was mourning the loss of the child I thought I was going to have and the future I thought we were going to have, I still felt so much love and connection to him, and I could tell there was something just so special about him. So this idea of starting a blog or creating some way to spread the word about, and I didn't even know what I was going to be spreading the word about, but I just knew that there was something more that this kid was supposed to do. So when he was 1, we started the blog, and I just thought, at 1 year old, when he was 1, we were the luckiest people on earth. By that point, I was totally adjusted, totally excited and happy about everything family was and about who Wells was and what that little chromosome, that extra chromosome had to offer. And I just wanted the world to understand this joy. I didn't want people we had enough people say, I'm so sorry, when he was first born. And that stuck with me. And I wanted people to not feel sorry for us and to not be worried about us or to think that our life was over or that this was something that was a tragedy, something terminal and difficult. This was just something different. And I don't that. We as a society are so afraid of differences. And I really wanted to kind of shout his worth a little bit and to help the world understand that this is a beautiful thing and hopefully help other people in my situation know that they can totally do this. Yeah.
You said so many amazing things in there. I love how you talked about when people would say, I'm sorry. I'm sure that was hard to hear. If people are like, oh, I'm sorry that you have a kid with Down syndrome. You're like, I'm not.
Right. Exactly. Like I got to the point where I got so good at stopping them, like as I could see they were going to put their foot in their mouth in a minute, I'd be like, oh yes, no, it's the best ever. He is just the best ever. I would just like stop them midway through when I could tell that's the direction they were going. I didn't want them to feel bad and regret what they said. And I wanted them to know that they didn't need to be sorry.
Right. Yeah. And what you said about our society being so scared of differences is true. And I remember hearing this quote quite a while ago talking about love and hate and things like that. And it was talking about how where there isn't love or understanding, the opposite of that is actually fear. When people don't understand and they don't know, it's because they don't know how to respond. They don't understand it because they're scared of it. They haven't dealt with it, or I might say the wrong thing. Right. I don't want to offend you. I might say the wrong thing. So this is what I end up saying because I don't know.
I quickly had to learn that to not be offended or upset. And, I still work on that. People still say things that are so, so could be so offensive or could be so hurtful. But I have learned very quickly that people are coming from a place of love almost every time, and that they just don't have that understanding. So it's okay. I feel like it's one of my duties in life is to help teach that in a way that is very loving and kind, and that just helps shed light on something that they just don't know, that they don't understand. And that's totally okay, because I am sure I have all my sister-in-laws, all of my husband's sisters have struggled with infertility. And I'm sure I said some really stupid things when they were going through that, that adjustment and that trial, or I'm sure that I said things that were totally hurtful sometimes on accident, or, just what I'm saying is that people go through different things in their lives, and other people on the outside just don't know how to respond. And I actually don't like to even equate Wells in that situation to a trial, because for us, the adjustment might have been a trial, but he was never a trial. But just something that's unfamiliar, something that from the outside might look difficult to other people, we just tend to say either the first thing that comes to mind, or you avoid, or anyways, people just don't know how to respond. And that's just part of being human, and it's okay.
Right. Yeah. And I love your approach of learning not to be offended, because I think that as a society, that's something we also have to work on, because I think the whole process of trying to conceive, motherhood, infertility, there's so many comparisons, and there's so many like, oh, I got pregnant, and then that person's struggling with infertility and you don't want to tell them, or whatever it is. There's so many.
That's exactly what I mean. Right.
Right. There's so many ways that we could accidentally hurt somebody's feelings, but I think intentionally we're not trying to. So learning to not be offended. And then if you did, just be like, hey, when you said that kind of offended me, be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it like that, and learning to move on. And I think that, that's awesome that you've learned to not be offended about people's questions.
Of very creative ways to, kindly correct people, like not correct people, but like when people use the R word or something, it's not okay for me not to say something.
Yeah.
But if I say something out of anger, or if I shame them, they're not going to learn. They're just going to feel, hurt, and they're going to be the victim. And I don't want to ever shame people, because like I said, I have only had maybe a couple times, and it's been online, where somebody has been intentionally like bullying. Other than that, people are just saying things, they're doing their best, and they don't have all the information, and they don't know how to, they don't quite know how to handle it. And that's even, my favorite is when little kids say something.
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with him? Or why is he doing that? Why can't he talk? Those sweet little kids have no idea. And I love taking that minute to say, oh, you know why? And explain it to them. But you know what he can do? And I'll tell them all the things he can do. And do you like balls? Do you like music? Do you like cars? So does he. I like having that moment to kind of teach them young, because think about it. Like when we were little, nobody talked about special needs.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody. I mean, I feel like it was so rare, because they were tucked away. They weren't integrated into society the way they are now, because now we're finding that inclusion and that really letting them be fully immersed in society the way they should have always been is increasing their life expectancy, their health is better, their development is soaring. It's so good for them. So it's so good for us. We're all learning from them. It's such a beautiful thing. And I'm so grateful to kind of be part of the generation that's really, truly paving the way for inclusion. It's kind of been happening over the last 10, 15 years, but it's still a difficult journey. Inclusion in schools, inclusion in extracurriculars. It's still, we're kind of pioneering it still. So it's really exciting, and it's fun to be able to teach these people, to be able to teach our community and just the people around us and kids about that.
Yeah. And it's so important for people like you to have that blog, to want to be starting your YouTube channel, to take the time out of your life to educate people and normalize things that are normal, that, you know what I mean? It's not a scary or a huge whatever. You're like, everybody's life is different, and you're showing how yours is. And that is so awesome that you're able to do that.
It's been fun.
Good. All right, guys, I want to tell you about a service that I recently discovered and Vito and I have been using, and that is ButcherBox. It makes it easy to get high quality meat that you can trust. We've been on a health kick lately, and what we put in our bodies is really important to us. And finding a good quality source of protein can be really hard. That's why I love ButcherBox, because they have grass-fed, grass-finished beef, free-range organic chicken, heritage-bred pork, and wild Alaskan salmon that is delivered directly to your door. And they are committed to raising animals humanely that are never fed antibiotics or hormones. You get to curate which box you would like and mix the proteins that you would like in there. And the meat is frozen at the peak of freshness in individual vacuum sealed packs, and all the meat is delivered right to your door. There is no easier way to get high quality meat that you can trust. And they are seriously committed to humanely raising animals, open pasture animals that are never fed antibiotics or hormones. And a lot of times with beef, when they say grass fed, that means they were fed grass at some point in their lives, but a lot of them are grain finished. And that actually takes away a lot of the nutrients, because cows don't naturally eat grain. They naturally graze on grass. And a lot of the grains that they're fed are genetically modified. So it's just something to be conscious of, that if you are buying beef, that it says grass finished. And that is what ButcherBox brings to you as well. I actually made steaks for Vito and I last week that were really, really good. I'm not the best at making them, but they turned out really awesome. And I have been looking for a source of protein that we can trust. So I'm super excited that we discovered ButcherBox. And right now I have a special offer for you guys to receive 20% off your first box and a package of free bacon in every box for the life of your subscription. Go to butcherbox.com/babies or enter babies at the checkout. Go now. It's a limited time offer. And again, to receive $20 off your first box and a package of free bacon in every box for the life of your subscription, go to butcherbox.com/babies or enter babies at the checkout. And it is a limited time offer. So go now. Share with us a little bit. You had that year trial of just figuring out the adjustment, how your life may be different. But you said after that, it seemed like your life just became pure joy.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? When people say that, I kind of feel bad because it's, of course, there's definitely bumps in the road. There's definitely trials. But yeah, no, it was really quickly, after he was born. Like I said, it was so weird to be holding this little baby and feel so in love with him, but still feel the sorrow for this baby I thought I was having. It was kind of like, and I hate to compare it to somebody who loses a child at birth because that's totally unfair, but it felt like a loss. There was this feeling of loss there, like where, in fact, I had his whole nursery decorated and I had to completely redo it. I was so like that kid that I thought I was bringing home, is not the kid. And it's so silly that I thought that way now, but it was okay. That was what I needed to go through. That's what I needed to tell myself. I needed to start from scratch and just redirect. Now I'm seeing that my life is really not as different as I thought it was going to be. We're not as unique as I thought we were. I thought this is going to completely change the course of our life. Untrue, totally untrue. Sure, it changes certain things. Vacations, we have to make sure we're at places. It's kind of like just, he's almost 6, but it's kind of right now, like we still have a second toddler. Like, we have a 3-year-old and they're about cognitively, our 3-year-old is surpassing him in some ways and not in other ways. Wells is still had, but there are some things that are different for sure. We kind of have to be more cautious about certain things, about making sure our house is locked a certain way because he likes to escape. But you know what? Who's to say I didn't have another kid who, every kid has different special needs. That's why I laugh when people say, do you have a kid with special needs? It's like, well, yeah, so do you. Everybody has kids with special needs. His special needs might be a little, they might take more time to grow out of. And he may not grow out of all of them. And I think my daughter has some special needs. She doesn't diagnostically, but she definitely has needs that are more difficult than some kids her age, as well as my youngest. All children do. Our life is not as off course as I had anticipated. Scott and I just got back from Hawaii. I thought we would never be able to travel. I thought we would never be able to go on trips and be together. I thought we were never going to be empty nesters. There's a good chance Wells will want to live on his own someday.
Yeah.
And there's a good chance he will be very capable of that. And now we don't want him to. It's funny. Our whole perspectives have shifted in so many different ways. We want him. We hope he will. We are hoping to have like a little apartment on our property so he can live with us forever. But he may not want to. He may be very independent. So the course of our life has not strayed as much as I thought it would. But there's definitely still bumps. He still does have, little meltdowns, and communication is difficult. There are times where we both are sitting on the floor of the pantry crying because I can't understand what he wants to eat, and he's frustrated because I can't understand him. And those things are getting better, but it's just different trials. But overall, yeah, the joy he brings, I don't think most typical kids are capable of. There is something different and special. I sometimes think it's a little controversial that I say this, but a lot of people in the community of kids of different abilities like to say more alike than different. And I'm okay with them being different. I'm actually like, well, I don't know. Yeah, they are alike in a lot of ways, but they're also really different in a lot of ways. And I love that. There's nothing wrong with that. I kind of think, I get what they're saying, and I love the message they're trying to send out, which is, hey, kids, don't be so afraid. They're like you in so many ways. And I love that. And that's true. But also I'm always like, yeah, but there's so many differences that they have to offer that we aren't really capable of. So, some differences that are just kind of something that are so, there's something so unique about these special little spirits. And I think we should just totally celebrate the heck out of that, because the fact that he has literally no guile. And I have yet to meet an individual, and I've met a lot of individuals with Down syndrome that have guile. I mean, explain that. It's crazy. Something about that extra chromosome. Like no guile, like no malice, no guile, no will to hurt people or to, there's just no part of them that, and I hate to generalize them like they're all the same. They're not. They're totally, each individual with Down syndrome is just as different as each typical individual.
Yeah.
But there's some common thread in these individuals with Down syndrome where they just don't seem to feel guile. What a freaking gift.
Yeah.
Like, what a gift to not have, to have in your home. This person who just really doesn't seem to feel any guile and just loves, like, their emotional connection is so strong, even if it's in different ways. I know a lot of kids who are nonverbal who have Down syndrome, or who have a dual diagnosis with autism and Down syndrome. And they all just have this special connection. And there's something that they know how to connect with people, even if it's not verbally, even if you can't understand, that there's something that, like, Wells will just kind of look at me sometimes, like, he doesn't say things all the time. His speech is getting much better, by the way, but there's just this kind of wisdom and connection that they have to mankind. And it's such a beautiful thing. And it is different. I mean, we don't all have that. It is amazing.
Yeah.
And it is something to be celebrated. Sorry, I think I went way off from your question.
Oh, no, you're good.
Squirrel. I kind of chase after things.
I'm loving this. And we've got time. So, and I feel like that must be such a gift, though, too, because when you have a kid, you kind of get to re-experience some childhood through them. Watching your kids learn, watching them play, it kind of brings you back to, like, oh, when I was 3, I was doing this, or, oh, I remember what it was like to, be curious about this, or I have a memory of learning to ride my bike. I remember that. But, so being able to experience it through Wells, where he doesn't have a mean bone in his body, must be such a joy.
I mean, he's not perfect. He does do stinker things. He'll hit his brother from time to time, or, but it's almost like it's almost like it's just repetition of what he sees. Or he does totally get frustrated. And like I told you, and he throws tantrums when he doesn't get certain foods that he wants. But those moments are so fleeting in comparison to the moments where they're offering love and just connection and kindness. But yeah, I will say I don't see any guile, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
You said that he's 6 now?
He's almost 6.
Almost 6.
Yeah, he's 5.5. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So growing up then, did he, is there, like you said, he's working on the verbal and stuff. So is there a different program that he goes to? Or anything
he just
like
has speech therapists.
Yeah.
He just has speech therapists. They come to our house. He has speech therapy in school. Actually, today was his last day of preschool, which is crazy. It was his last day of preschool. He'll start kindergarten in the fall. And he'll be like the oldest in his class because he got to go a year late to kindergarten. But his speech is getting much better. It's definitely so much more of a process. And it's funny because he'll say something and we'll be like, oh, that's what he's been saying. Like, it'll click with us. Mm-hmm. So we understand quite a bit, and peers don't understand much, and other adults kind of, but it's getting there. I mean, I think he'll in the next year, take off. And if he doesn't, that's okay too. We'll just roll with the different, the different curves that he throws us.
Yeah. I'm going to take a second to tell you about one of my favorite online business management tools, and that is HoneyBook. If you run a creative business, you know how to make your clients look good. But if you're struggling with the tedious administrative tasks, which I do, let HoneyBook do the work and make you look good. If you have a great idea for business, what is holding you back? If the thought of all that administrative work is overwhelming, HoneyBook is here to help you get your plan off the ground. They help you manage your business online, and it lets you control your client communication, bookings, contracts, invoices, and it's all in one place for you. If you're a creative freelancer or a small business owner, they help you stay organized with custom templates and automation tools. You can even use them to consolidate services that you already use, like QuickBooks, Google Suite, and MailChimp. Over 75,000 photographers, designers, event professionals, and other entrepreneurs have saved hundreds to thousands of hours a year. It's your business. It just gets better with HoneyBook. And right now, HoneyBook is offering our listeners 50% off your first year with the promo code BABES. Payment is flexible, and this promotion applies whether you pay monthly or annually. Go to honeybook.com and use promo code BABES for 50% off your first year. Get paid faster and work smarter with honeybook.com, promo code BABES. Are there, I honestly don't really know anything about Down syndrome. So
Awesome.
Thank you. Is there health risks or differences? Because I know how we were talking about the life expectancy has changed because, because we're making it more inclusive. Like they need the socialization, the normalcy.
There's many other different health components for whatever reason. And even I should probably know more, but I actually don't think that it's well known as to why that extra chromosome does create like 60% of individuals, and I could be a little off on that percentage, but it's close to, have heart defects. Wells doesn't. So we have a lot of buddies who have like congenital heart disease or different heart defects. They have a higher chance of like leukemia. In fact, I have this horrible book that says Babies with Down Syndrome, I think, and it just basically lists all the possible obstacles and health problems that they could have. So I would read this the week he was born and sit in the bath and just bawl.
Right.
Don't do that. If you receive that diagnosis, find other moms. Do not look things up because for one thing, I swear those stats are so off and outdated. And for another thing, talk to us who've like walked this journey. Yes, there's definitely more chance for different health complications, but who's to say my daughter can't get hit by a car? It's just part of life, Right. And his immune system seems to be better than my other kids. He's like my healthiest child. He's almost never sick. He got croup a lot the first couple of years. They just seem to have, so their immune systems are supposed to be a little weaker. Their lungs, everything is smaller for whatever reason. So their veins, their lungs, so they just, if something does go wrong, like say they get a cold or pneumonia, it just seems to hit them a lot harder.
Yeah.
That seems to be an across the board thing. So like when he does get sick, I'm a lot more cautious. I'm a lot more quick to take him in if I think something could be wrong. And he's had great health though. We've had some buddies with some bigger health issues. We've had a couple buddies who've had cancer but the kind of leukemia they get, if they get it, is I think very treatable.
Yeah.
So anyways, there's risks for everything like there is with all kids. There are risks. I think it just seems to be a little bit higher.
Yeah. After he was born then, was there any extra special treatment that he needed in the hospital or were you able to take him home like you normally would?
No, he was on oxygen just for 2 weeks. So we were in the hospital for 2 weeks on oxygen. Yeah. Just till he learned how to breathe on his own. And they actually called it bird farts. They're like, he's just getting little bird farts. Like, what? Like it was just enough air to be like a little bird fart.
That's not a nice visual.
I know. So I said, I don't want to go home until you feel like I was so nervous. Mm-hmm. But so many of our friends have taken their kids home on oxygen for the first year or whatever. And now he actually sleeps with oxygen. And we've created like a little oxygen tent. All these things, they sound so terrifying to a new mom. But it's like, you know what? You just, when it comes, you cross the bridge and you can do it. You're just so surprised at what just, like me every night going in when I leave him with a babysitter, I'm like, okay, so here's how you turn on his oxygen. And I can see their eyes just get big, like, and I'm like, don't worry, he's not going to stop breathing. This just helps him so that, he's not overworking his heart when he sleeps. It's okay. No big deal. You can even not turn it on and I'll do it when it's just funny. These things that seem so big to people, you learn to roll with it. It's like any trial in our life. People, you look at someone else's trial and you're like, oh, I could never handle that. Well, people look at like the different health complications or the different, the extra needs that our kids are going to have. And they think, oh, I could never do that. And then it comes to you and you're like, no, I totally got this. It's all good. We can do this.
Yeah.
We can do this.
So
not that, it'll be something else. Life is not supposed to be easy.
100%. I mean, yeah, 100%. I know so many families that have had so many complications just because that's life. Your kids are going to get sick.
My sister lost a baby.
Oh, wow.
My sister lost a baby 2 years ago. And you want to talk about heartbreak? Like that was so difficult. And now she's having another baby with a defect. And it's just, life is not supposed to be easy, but it can still be so wonderful. Like I look at all the beauty that Wells brings and I'm like, dude, these other things, I got it. I'll take it because he's so worth it. Mm-hmm. He's so worth it. So it's no big deal. And I'll tell you, my other kids give me hell half the time. So, they might be healthier. I might not have to turn oxygen on for them, but they give me trials too. They just all do. It's just part of life and you got to see the beauty in it.
Yeah. I love your outlook.
See the growth.
So when you decided to have a third kid, were you guys planning, or was that just something that kind of happened? Like, what was your logic behind it?
We were planning to eventually have a third kid. I don't want to go into detail here, but we don't know how we got pregnant with him the way we did. Because he was a surprise. I didn't think we were ready yet, but this is one of those things where I'm like, divine intervention, because I didn't think we were going to, I was terrified. Wells wasn't even walking yet. They're only 20. So my first two are actually closer in age. Scarlett and Wells are 19 months apart. And then Wells and Ames are 27 months. And I was thinking we'd have like a good 3-year gap before we even thought about it. And Ames had other plans. And you know what? It has been the most amazing thing. Their relationship, I'm so grateful that it happened when it did, because he just takes Wells right. They take care of each other. And it's so beautiful. They have a beautiful little brotherly relationship. So.
Oh, that's nice.
When they're not hucking cars at each other, because that does happen.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Me and my sister were 3 years apart, and we fought like crazy until I was about 13. So.
Yeah. Well, luckily they don't fight like crazy, but they do. They have their little rough and tumble moments. They are just best buddies. It's pretty fun.
Oh, that's awesome. So going into, I guess, getting pregnant, were you even thinking about what if we have another child with Down syndrome? Was that a thought process that you went through?
I wasn't. I had, so one of my best friends who also has a little boy, we became friends when she had a little boy with Down syndrome who was 2 years older than Wells, and she and I connected. Right after I had Wells, she came over, and she was kind of one of my saving graces, but, she was pregnant at the same time as I was, also with a little boy, and she was terrified that he was going to have Down syndrome, or that he was not that he was going to have Down syndrome. That you just kind of get jaded once you have like that birth diagnosis and that kind of trauma of the hospital and them telling you that there's something wrong with your kid and he's got to be on oxygen. You just kind of get nervous, and she was really nervous about the possibility of another kid with complications and just that PTSD from the hospital, but. I really wasn't. I'm not a big worrier. So I was like, there's no way. And you know what? If he was, cool. Wells would have a buddy, like a roommate for life. I don't know. I just thought they'll do all those things together and the Special Olympics. I didn't really think too much about it, to be honest. My husband, when he didn't have Down syndrome, was like, kind of would have been fun if he did,
Yeah.
So we weren't really afraid that he might be an anomaly there. I think a lot of people, the idea of kind of always looking out for that child for life is a little more daunting to maybe do it again. But we do have a lot of friends who've adopted a second and even a third child with Down syndrome. So that's saying something. It is pretty wonderful. But we weren't too nervous about it. It would have been okay. It would have been wonderful. But yeah. Instead, he's got a little bossy little brother who will be his mentor, I guess. So was the genetic testing even an option for you the third time, or either way you were like? Yeah, well, so we did a blood test. I didn't do anything invasive, but because my insurance said, hey, you have a pre-existing or you've had a child with Down syndrome, so it was like a $1,200 test, and they said, we'll just cover it for you since you've had that. I was like, all right, it means you got to find the gender out. So I was 11 weeks, and I knew for sure that Ames was a boy because they look at the chromosomes so they can see if there's X or Y. And I think it's like 99% point something percent accurate. And so I was more excited to find out the gender. I didn't care so much about, I didn't worry so much about any chromosome abnormalities. You know how Down syndrome is, it happens at conception. It's just a third copy of the 21st chromosome that sticks to the other two copies. And it's, almost always just kind of, a fluke. It just happens. And there's nothing you can do to stop it or prevent it. And I hope they never discover something for that because it's a wonderful fluke. But some people, it's like 0.1. I don't remember. I'll say the wrong percentage, but there's a tiny, tiny percentage of people that do have a genetic component that will cause that third chromosome. It's called translocation Down syndrome, and that's genetic. We don't have that. And I think we know one person who does out of the hundreds of families we've met. and even then they had another typical child after their child with Down syndrome. So yeah, no, I wasn't, it didn't make me nervous. It wasn't something I gave a lot of thought about. So
yeah. I was going to ask
answer.
that. No, I was going to ask if there was anything genetic. Like I said, I really don't know anything. So that's why I'm so glad that you're here to talk with us. So it is.
You know what? I don't think anybody does this is, your road in life. I don't know why. I didn't know a thing. I had no idea. In fact, my husband, he totally denies that he said this, but he asked the doctor, he said, when she was pregnant, she would always rub Vicks rub on her chest, and it says to ask a physician to use it when you're pregnant. And I warned her that maybe she shouldn't be using that. Could that have been? I was like, oh my God. And the doctor was like, no. He still denies that he says that. Now, mind you, we were going through like no sleep and delirious, but I swear he asked that question.
Well, I'm sure
I don't think anybody knows until they need to, usually.
Well, right. And I'm sure some people probably do retrace their steps, and kind of be like, did I do this? Did I do that? But knowing that it happens at conception, then there's really nothing differently that you could have done except for not have conceived.
No. Or would we have? And you can actually test afterwards to see whose chromosome it was. So yeah, we were actually given the option to do genetic testing, and we signed up for it and everything, and we'd made the appointment. And somebody even told us that we would know whose chromosome it was that third copy that caused the Down syndrome. And so we had the appointment, and finally Scott's like, why are we doing this? Does it matter? Do we care? Do we need to know anymore? We know he has Down syndrome. What's the point? Do we need to know who caused it? Like, for what? To blame or to thank? Like, what's the point? So we just canceled it, and we never found out exactly all the genetic. We know what we need to know for his medical purposes and exactly what kind of Down syndrome he has. The rest was just extra that we didn't care about. That wasn't important to us.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, he's such a blessing, and would it be to blame or thank? I'm sure for some people, maybe they want to know every single detail about it. Yeah. But you already said you're a super relaxed person. So,
well, I don't know if I'm super relaxed, but I'm not a researcher, maybe the way I should be. I've had to. He's made me research a lot of things, but there's certain details I don't think it's necessary to get. If it was for his health, I would have done it, but we knew what we needed to for that. And so there was no need.
Yeah. You had mentioned, like, why would you know all this unless you're going through it? And I feel like the importance is, it's so important to be informed, because even then when you meet families who have a kid, who has Down syndrome, or you never know, it could happen to you. And then then it's not a scary thing. You're informed, you're educated, okay, I know that I can handle, right. I know that I can handle this. And you just kind of have to take it day by day to see. You thought your life was going to be way different than it is. You're like, oh, it's actually kind of normal. Right.
Right. Yeah. I think I wish that we were taught a little bit more about, and maybe they'll start, now that these kids now that inclusion is in the process, is happening, maybe they'll start educating kids on how, on these different abilities and these different, chromosome abnormalities. Maybe they'll start teaching these kids. I think if inclusion had been implemented back when I was in school, like full inclusion, I think I would not have been so scared when I had Wells. Yeah. Knowledge, like I said, knowledge is power. And I wish we had, I wish that they were giving kids a little bit more knowledge. But, we're getting there. We're getting there. Even through Instagram accounts, we're getting there. Kids, we are reaching new audiences, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And that was a little bit what we talked about before we recorded was, the internet can be so powerful because it does help us educate. You can connect to other people who you're like, I don't know anyone who's going through this, but I found friends on Instagram who are, and now I feel like I'm not alone, or listening to a podcast, or you're saying you're just getting into those. And but I feel like there's such a fine line too then of falling into that comparison game. And it also, I feel like it disconnects us a little bit. So you do feel lonely, and then you kind of need that connection to feel reconnected. It's a bittersweet thing in there.
Yeah, I mean, like anything, you've got to be careful. You've got to watch yourself. You've got to lean into your feelings and see what affects you in what ways. And I've been listening to Brooke Castillo's podcast. I can't remember the name of it, the Life Coaching School or something. And she talks a lot about that and not falling into that comparison and remembering that everybody is, so she talks about how everyone's happy 50% of the time. And if you're happy 80% of the time, you're doing something wrong, because you're supposed to be feeling life in all of it. And I love that, because there are times where I'm like, it's okay. It's okay that he's not talking yet. It's okay. When I say, okay, no, you can sit, cry about it for a minute, and then move on and say, all right, what do we do? That's all right. Let's move on. He's got this and this and this. It's okay to feel sadness and to feel, and you've got to remember, when you look on Instagram, everyone's feeling that 50-50. Nobody's feeling happy 100% of the time, even if, they've edited all their zits out and their hair looks perfect. And even in the Down syndrome world, we do this. Oh my gosh, that kid's talking and my kid's not. He seems to, have better social skills than my child. Like, we all do this. And you've got to stop and check yourself and say, for one thing, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're going to love your kid whether they're talking, and life is going to be hard no matter what. So if it's that they're not talking, that's going to be hard. If it's that, life is bumpy. So lean into those feelings, feel them, cry about it, and then move on, because there's so much to be enjoyed. So stop. And the thing that I've learned from Wells, probably the most impactful thing our family's learned, is to stop and smell the roses, enjoy the way he does, because he doesn't get caught up in all the little details. He gets caught up in the important things. Mm-hmm. The details don't matter. I think it was Harvard that did a study. They took families who had kids with Down syndrome, and they interviewed all these families across the country. And they found that, I think it was, my percentages are always off, but they're close. But it was close to 100%, like 98% of them were happier. Were these kids with Down syndrome were more happy with who they were by a long shot than the rest of us. They didn't want to change the way they looked. They didn't want to change who was in their family. They loved who they were. They loved their families. Their families seemed to be happier, because I think that they teach us so much to stop and enjoy the little things in life. When Wells says a new word, we celebrate. We celebrate big. I didn't do that with my other kids. Actually, our youngest son is a little bit speech delayed, so we do celebrate those with him. But I mean, we've learned to celebrate those little beautiful milestones in life, and not to get caught up in the comparison. It does nobody any good. It's what is that quote? Comparison is the thief of joy, and it's easy to do. It's so easy to do. It's easy to say. I had a moment last week where I was totally crying because Wells can go to a summer camp that the other kids his age can't, because it's too dangerous for him. He'd run away. They're doing a lot outside, and I thought, he's supposed to be doing these things, and he's not, and it's not fair. He's almost 6. I want him to go to these camps and do these things. And then I cried, and then I thought, okay, well, why do I want him to do these things? He's happy not doing it. He's happy to be home with me, going on a walk with the dog around the block. He's happy to be with his brother and sister and doing different summer things. Why does he need to go to this camp? Why does that matter? We have to stop overanalyzing what's going wrong in our lives. I think it's okay to sit with that sadness for a minute, and then look at all the joy around us. And, it's going to look differently for every one of us. There's going to be different struggles and heartaches in every home, different triumphs and different, beautiful things. Every home's going to be different. And just because somebody's, life looks pretty beautiful from the outside, you have no idea what's going on inside. So we need to be careful and remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you were talking about that study that Harvard did, I got chills all over my body and I welled up with tears. I'm also PMSing right now. But that's so amazing.
That's so beautiful.
Well, how many people do you ask that it's like, would you change this about yourself? Are you happy with who you are? Are you happy with the cards that you got dealt in life? Are you accepting of those things? And so many people aren't. So that is a beautiful gift to be able to say, yeah, I'm happy with who I am. I'm happy with the people I'm surrounded with, you know?
Absolutely. That's what you want for your kids. You know, I feel like, well, for one thing, I do know adults with Down syndrome that say like, oh, I used to have Down syndrome, but I grew out of it. You know, I mean, they know there's something different, but overall they are much more confident and happy than we are. They just are. Like, it just seems to come easier. And I know people are going to, you know, sometimes I feel like people don't like it when you, and I'm not trying to generalize, like they're all happy. They're all, you know, they have hard days too. They have hard moments every day. Like, but overall, with their lives, with their situations, they do as a whole seem to be so much more content than the rest of us in society. And I think about, what do you want for your kids? When I think as a mother, what is it that I really want for all my kids? And I had to remind myself this even before I had, like, what did I want for my kids before I had Wells? What were my goals in parenthood? And I would have said this, you know, 10 years ago, and I'm saying it now. It's that I want them to be kind. I want them to be productive members of society. I want them to bless other people and to work hard and push themselves. And Wells has like all of that already. He just kind of came with all that. He's kind. He blesses everyone around him. He's a productive member of society. He smiles and waves at everybody at the grocery. He makes people's days everywhere we go. And he is pushing himself to learn things that are different from maybe what I thought he'd be pushing himself in, but he's pushing himself. He will always be pushed by me, at least, and you know, work hard at the things that he wants, whether that be his job, you know, doing something that maybe the rest of us would think isn't a super successful occupation, or maybe it will be, you know, as long as he's pushing himself, whether that be to go to college or to go to a skill school and learn a skill, or you know, to learn how to, you know, ride the bus by himself and go take classes, you know, audit classes at a college, or take classes at a special program, whatever it is he's doing, as long as he's pushing himself, he's happy, he's kind. And, you know, he just kind of seems to have come with all those qualities. It seems like it's going to be a little easier for him.
Yeah. I love the goals that you said, that, you know, as a parent, because you know, those are things that you can help instill in your children. And that is how you make the world a better place, right? Raise people who are kind and want to bless others, and be active in our society. I have a question about your other two kids then. Do you find that it might be hard? Do you feel like you spend extra time on Wells and they might feel left out sometimes, or that he gets extra attention? And how do you balance that?
Yeah, I think that's a hard one for a lot of moms. I don't know if it's my situation or if it's the way I parent. I don't feel like I spend a ton of extra time on Wells right now. I feel like my other two kids make up where I lack. So if I don't have enough time in the day to do all the one-on-one time with any of them, they kind of have each other. But we are very careful to make sure we give one-on-one time to each of our kids. And I would say equally, but actually I think we give the most one-on-one time to our daughter. She seems to just need that the most. So I'd actually say, if it's unfair to anybody, it's the boys, but they don't care. But she gets the most from us for sure. She needs the most from us. She feels very secure with a lot of mom and dad time. So we focus a lot on that. Wells, you know, he's got some more needs, but you know, he has therapists that do the speech stuff at school, and we try to work with him when we can at home, you know, as you know, and we can implement it into what we're already doing. We don't create these big systems or extra things. It's just, okay, when we're giving him dinner, make him say, I want soup, or sign it, or, you know, it's kind of just integrated into our everyday, and that's going to be different in every home. There are people who have kids with maybe more severe health situations than Wells, and they're at the hospital more. Like, we have friends that have had to go have different heart surgeries, and they feel that guilt for being at the hospital so much. We haven't had that yet, but I honestly just kind of think that in every phase, each kid's going to need different things from us, and we will cater to that kid who seems to need more, and be very cautious we are very intentional and cautious about our other kids. I never want them to feel like they're responsible for Wells when we go. I hope they will. I hope they'll want to, that's a really deep thought. But, we do have to think about that. We have to think about when Scott and I are gone, if Wells outlives us, which, like I said, he seems to be healthy. Who knows? I don't know why he wouldn't, but, we don't want our kids to ever feel that pressure that they're in charge, I don't want them to ever resent him. And I honestly don't think that they do. There are times when I'll watch my daughter act out when, people are giving a lot of attention to us, when we go places and people know who he is, or when therapists spend a lot of time at our house and she sees all the attention he's getting, I'll see her act out. And so I'll talk to her about it, and I'll try to, go on a walk with just her. We're intentional about it, but yeah, it's a tricky balance, but I think it's a tricky balance in parenthood, period. Just giving all your kids the different things they need. And I think you have to be super intentional about it. And that's been something I've just had to learn, is learning how to plan and be intentional in life, period. So parenting, period, has taught me that. So yeah. Sorry, I'm a rambler. I totally ramble.
I love it, because you're just giving such good advice, and you are so positive. You have such amazing energy, and you can just tell that you are a light, in your family, and everything that you're dropping is wisdom just for regular parenting and for life, so.
Oh, you're so sweet. I don't know about that. Don't do everything the way I do. I make a lot of mistakes. That's how you learn, right?
That's the only way you learn.
You do it wrong first, usually.
Mm-hmm. What would you say to a family who maybe did the testing and found out that they have a baby with Down syndrome, or that just happened with their family, and they're trying to figure out what life would look like? I know you already said don't Google things. Maybe just find people that you can get in their group and learn. But any other advice that you would have?
Yeah, actually, I got this really cool opportunity a couple weeks ago. I got a phone call, and I'm on a board for a nonprofit and for kids with different abilities. And they said, we just found out that this woman in the hospital down here had a baby with Down syndrome, and she really wants to talk to somebody. So I went down there, and she didn't speak a lick of English. So we had to have a translator in there, but it was the most incredible. It felt like when I walked in and looked at her, I was looking at myself 7 years ago. I could feel what she was feeling. It was such an emotional and raw experience, and I had Wells with me. I just happened to have him with me that day, and I didn't have anyone to watch him, so I thought, oh my gosh, I hope he's doesn't run around the hospital room unplugging things, or I hope he can sit there, because I know this is going to be an emotional moment for this woman. I know it was less than 24 hours, and I just got to hug her and say, and have the translator was translating everything, but she said, hey, you can cry. You can feel sad. It's okay. Feel it all. Because I really think you have to let yourself feel all of those. You got to mourn. So that you can move through to that. You got to get through the threshold to the other side to feel all the wonderful parts. But I do think that you have to have a moment. I think the women who bury it and say, all right, okay, we did this. We just got the diagnosis, and I'm just going to research and learn all the health things, and I'm going to figure it all out, and it's going to be fine. They come apart eventually. I think, there's, even if they're at the point where they should be, where I think you get to that point pretty quickly where you just you realize what a blessing, and you love that child so much that it shouldn't matter anymore. But I think if you don't allow yourself to feel that initially, you're going to eventually, and it's going to manifest in different ways for people. So she sat there, and I just held her, and she just sobbed on me. And it was so oh my gosh, I remember being here. It just brought back, it makes me want to cry just thinking about it, just thinking of all those moments in the hospital where I thought, I can't do this. I can't be this. My life is it's spills over in some ways. All the things I thought we were going to do as a family were not. And I know she was feeling those things. And I just said, so I let her cry for as long as she needed. And then I said, do you see that little boy? He's mine and he's the best. And we still are happy. He's made our family so much more wonderful. His different abilities have shaped our family in such an incredible way. And it's totally a beautiful life. And I told her how I felt. I kind of bore my testimony of Wells and what Down syndrome's brought to our family, while allowing her to feel all the things she just needed to feel. So I say to new parents, hey, it's okay, cry, totally cry. Be sad for a minute. They see how, if you follow my Instagram, you see how happy he makes us. And I also will always be honest about the parts that are harder. But I think it's okay for people to realize that this is different than what you thought. And it's okay to be sad for a minute. It's okay to feel it all. And I just give them that reassurance. Hey, I promise you're not going to want to change this. In a year from now, you're not going to be saying what you're saying right now, which is, I wish this wasn't us. I wish he didn't have Down syndrome. I wish we didn't have to deal with this. In a year from now, you're going to say, wow, I'm so grateful for this. And that's so crazy how a year or even a month, I mean, I remember even by the time we found out that both for sure had it, it took I can't remember, 7 days for the testing to come back, that it was absolutely 100% for sure Down syndrome. I remember by that point, Scott saying, now I feel like it'll be kind of sad if he doesn't. We'd been, meeting we met a couple adults with Down syndrome in that time, and we'd got looking up all these videos for the Special Olympics, and then he kind of had to start set on him having Down syndrome, that and it changes your perspective will change fairly quickly. And some people it takes longer. I mean, not everyone's time frame is the same, but that new diagnosis, it's a time where you got to just let yourself feel it all and know that there is going to be joy on the other side. And the only way you'll know that is by talking to other parents. Doctors are not going to know to tell you that. They don't know. They know the medical stuff. They don't know. They don't know the life. They don't know the joy. They usually don't.
Yeah. What do you have, I guess, any resources that you would recommend moms or families to check out to maybe help them through that process, or what was kind of the biggest benefit for you?
Well, we were lucky. In Utah, there's an organization called the United Angels Foundation, and I happened to know the founders of it, and they came and visited us in the hospital, and we got involved right away. It's hard because I think each state is different, and I hate it when I can't help people in their states. I get people all over the world asking me if I know anything in their area, and there's just no way for me to. But I would say there's most likely a good Facebook group in your area. With social media, it's so easy to connect. Like 20 years ago, these moms finding each other was almost impossible. It was like word of mouth, seeing if any. Nowadays, there are so many resources. Just look online. I guarantee in every state there's something, and hopefully in your area. For us, it's really, we have a lot in Utah. But I have friends in California that have a ton of resources, Texas, I mean, all over the place. So I think you gotta go be proactive about finding your people when you're ready. I think some people need a little more time before they're ready to jump in. But I think once you jump in, you're going to realize those are your people. You need to have that. We have 2 families that live within 6 houses. So there's 3 of us.
Oh, wow.
That all have kids with Down syndrome. We purposely built right by each other, and we love it. We get to be together we see each other all the time, and that community is so great. And that's unrealistic. That's not normal. We got really lucky that we were able to all be looking for houses at the same time, and that we all found each other. They're my 2 lifelines, Gina and Catherine. They both came to me when I had Wells. But I think everywhere there's resources all over the place. And if they're not, there's retreats. Ruby's Rainbow is a great Instagram account to follow, which they actually raise money for scholarships for individuals adults with Down syndrome to go to these programs in colleges, to go to college, sorry. And she does retreats every year for moms to get together. There's a lot of different things so I fly out to places to meet moms all the time. So anyways, you may not have people in your neighborhood, but there are people, they're out there, and we get to connect through listening to people on a podcast like what you do.
Yeah.
There's plenty of ways to connect nowadays.
And so if people want to follow your journey with Wells and see what your family's up to, where can they find you at?
Yeah, Nothing Down About It is my Instagram name, just all one word, Nothing Down About It. Our blog is www.nothingdownabout.com. Our YouTube is Nothing Down About It. So we're all over the place. Our Facebook group is Nothing Down About It. Search for me. If you do have a new diagnosis, send me a message because I want to connect with you. I love connecting with new parents. It's great.
Thank you so much, Oakley, for coming on and sharing your story with us, sharing the joy that Wells brings to your family, sharing your fears that you went through and how you worked through it all, and for just taking the time to share your passion and your heart and connect with the listeners of this podcast.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will make sure that people know where to find more information and connect with you.
You're awesome. Okay, we'll talk soon.
Are awesome. Yes. Oh. And if you guys want to check out our podcast Facebook group, it's Miraculous Mamas by Elizabeth Joy. The Instagram is Miraculous Mamas, and then the Patreon is Miraculous Mamas as well, where we share additional birth stories, information, and it's a good time. So I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.
This podcast is brought to you by Wave Podcast Network. Check out all of our shows, including the Brain Candy Podcast, I Don't Get It, Coffee Convos, and Let's Talk About It.